I'm gonna get started right away. So we can work on this learning activity today. But just a quick announcement for the McNair program. Uh, if you're not familiar with that, it's hosted at the college and it's funded by some national grants, and it provides students with summer research opportunities. These can count as your internship. You're required to do an internship as a computer major. So if you do one of the McNair summers, that would cover your internship. Also, doing summer research is great for getting a job. It's also great for going to grad school there. And there's some programs that'll talk to you about options for grad school and getting jobs and stuff like that. Um, it's only open to certain eligible students. So if you're interested, you do it. You have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. Generally, you have to be a sophomore, although you can be a sophomore by credits. So sometimes I've had first year students who have transferred in some high school credits do it here. It is open to later students, but in computing, a lot of our students by their junior year are maybe getting more advanced internships than this. I'm getting paid more than this would get paid. So sophomores, second year students, that the summer after that is a good time to do this sort of stuff. So you can fill out this form and see if you qualify for this. And I usually supervise the computer students, and there's usually maybe one. Sometimes there's two, but usually there's at most one or two students in computing every summer. But they're research students all over the university. So there's a pretty big summer program and summer housing and that sort of stuff for students to do this. So. Hey,
There you go.
how you doing?
Are you still looking for people for that $80 thing? Like $20
I'll let you know. Yeah, I might be. So, we're still checking on some stuff. So,
Yeah.
yep.
So.
Oh,
Okay.
they didn't carry over
Okay.
this one. Should I take it again?
Probably not.
But
So,
it's like, it's on the, it's like that list of all the things.
right. Yeah. So why don't we talk about it later, after class? We should discuss that sort of stuff. So, okay. So let's get started here on our content. So we're going to go to unit 4. No, unit 4. Unit 7. Get on the right unit here. And we're going to do the learning exercise, which is this weather program for this. So there's a set of code we want you to download or to view. If you click on here, you can see the code. So we're going to start with a new project over here. So I'm just going to do a new run NetBeans, new project, standard ant project. Give it some name. If you call it unit 7_weather, just like it is here, then you can just paste the whole file over there. If you call it something different, then you have to be careful how you paste the file over here. So again, I'm going to skip over the public class and start with the main. And there's a bunch of code below the main. I'm going to grab all that code here. I'm going to grab all the code below the main. And again, over here, I'm just going to delete, that and paste that in here. We'll need the includes, the imports, and there's actually quite a few imports on this one. So I'm going to grab all those and put them up here below the package. So you should end up with the code here where it's, you have your package, you have your imports, your public class, and then you paste in the blank main here. And then below that is all this code for getting things, getting weather data. It should run without any errors. It just won't do anything because the main is blank. So if I run this, it will run very blankly. So see if you can get that to work there. And then start working on this stuff. We want to call one of these methods. There's two methods in here. Retrieve XML data or retrieve JSON data. There's two common ways of seeing data. One is in JSON format and one is in XML format. And when computers are sending data to another computer, we generally use this format or one of these formats. JSON format looks kind of like this. Generally, it has tags like temp and then value and a colon in between them. So they'll say like the temp min and then a colon and then a value and then there's a comma and then that. There are also complex tags where we'll have like wind colon and then we'll have a brace and then there'll be multiple things underneath, as part of the wind. So the wind speed is under there, the wind degrees or direction is under there too. So there's these complex tags. There's also can be arrays, so we can, or lists with the square brackets here too. So that's a JSON file. XML file, it looks more like HTML if you're familiar with HTML, which is used on web pages. So there are tags here that like there's the temperature tag. And so tags are generally start with a less than sign and end in a greater than sign. So like here's current tag there. And some tags will start here and then end with the same thing, but with a backslash. So a backslash means that it's an end of a tag. So here's the start of the current tag. Here's the end of the current tag for this. Here's the start of the wind tag and the end of the wind tag here. A lot of these will have tags and values inside of them for that. So they'll have it specified this way. Okay. So again, we can use one of those ways to get the data. So your job is to write code to call one of them. Since JSON is actually used more commonly these days, I'm going to call this retrieve JSON. So look at, and you can do either one. They're very similar in some ways. So you want to call one of those methods here and see, and you should give it a string with the city, and you can use like Duluth just there, and it'll return a string. You want to save that string and print that out. So see if you can remember. So given a method like this, how do we call it? How do we save the value it returns and then print that value out? See if you can figure out how to do that. I'll give you a sec to work on that. So again, I'm going to call, you can call one of these, I'm going to call this retrieve JSON method here. So I'm going to go up in my main program and call that retrieve JSON. And then it requires a string. So it's the parameter or argument, I'm going to say parentheses. And I'm just going to put in a string. I could declare a variable, but I'm just going to put an actual string there. I'm just going to say Duluth like that. And then put a semicolon. So that'll run. It doesn't have any errors, but it doesn't do what I want, right? So if I run this, it still doesn't print anything out. So I need to print something else here. This returns a string. So when we look at these variables, public static string, this is what it returns. And so if method is returning a value, we should save or use it in an assignment variable or something like that. So I should say things like, some variable, my string equals that. I need to declare a variable. So maybe I'll declare a string variable. Now this is going to be my JSON weather data. So maybe I'll call it weather JSON. And I'll save that. So again, when our methods return a value, we want to generally call them often on the right side of an assignment statement and then save the results here. And then I'll want to print that out, so I can just say system dot out dot print line and print out this variable. So whatever you called your variable here. Now when you run it, it should print out the JSON file here. So let me put that. So we're going to be working with this data here in this XML or JSON format. It's all one long string, but it has lots of different parts to it. I sometimes like there are different formatters online, and I sometimes like to use one of those. So like here, I can paste in a JSON file and say, validate it. And it'll, as part of that, it will format it into multiple lines here. So here's what it looks like. So again, it's just putting in some returns in here to make it look pretty. In fact, that's what this is a version of this that just has some lines put in it for it. So sometimes it makes it a little easier to read when it's that way, but our computer can process it this way fine. So what do we want to do next? You might want to try this. Can you do the same thing with the XML data? So if you tried to retrieve XML data, what does that look like? To work out basically the same. The data is going to look, again, in a different format. Oops. I dropped a parenthesis there. The XML data is going to look different, a lot of greater than, less than brackets instead. So you can do either one. Like I said, I'm going to do the JSON because a lot more computers now are using JSON. It's going to be a little harder to do the JSON, I think. But again, since it's so common, I'm going to work through that one. I can also, I have the string and I have equals. I can actually put this all on one line. Maybe I'll just do that. There, string whether JSON equals, and then call the retrieve JSON function. So next we're going to try to grab the temperature out of this. So here's our long string of data. Somewhere down on this string, if I keep scrolling and scrolling, there is the current temperature. It's labeled TEP. Again, I'm in JSON format. I think it's maybe says temperature or something like that in the other one in XML. But it'll say quote TMP quote and then a greater than a colon, and then the actual temperature. I'm going to grab that out of here for this. So one thing I can do is use this index of method, or I can use, a substring method here. So rather than, I'm going to print off the whole weather data, and then I'm going to just print off a substring of the weather data. So I'm going to say weather.json.substring, and I specify a beginning index and an ending index. So I'll just count over. Let's say it's 100. Okay, I'm just making that up. I'm saying maybe 100, and then I want to print off 5 characters. So I'll go from 100 to 105. I'm just kind of guessing here and try that out. So right now it prints off the whole thing. It's printing out CLOD. So that must be cloud here. Maybe this one is 100. Maybe it's that cloud there. So maybe I have to go more. Maybe I have to go 200 to 205 to get the right substring. So now I'm getting temp underscore. Where is that at? That's probably here, temp min or max here. Maybe I print it off. Maybe I should print off a little bit more so I can see where I am at. So now I'm printing off the temp max here. So again, I could try to figure this out each time. The problem is, if I look at this weather data, some of this is going to change in size. So like the cloud, right now it says clear. Other days it's going to say cloudy or rainy or stuff. And that'll change the number of characters are in this. Clear sky will change. These numbers, again, when we get down to single digits, they'll change. They won't be as big here. So I can't just count how many characters to go over and say, oh, go over, 173 characters there, because again, the number of digits will change in a lot, the size of these things will change. So instead, what I can do is I can find, to figure out this 200 and this 210 to do my substring, I can search for something here. So I could search for this temperature word here and find out what character that is at. So that is what this index of does. So I'm going to grab this index of, what did I called I didn't call my thing weather data. I called mine weather JSON. Also didn't spell weather very well, looks like. So, okay. Okay, so I have that. So I have this index. So that is going to search through my weather data here and find temp here and return to me the index of the start of temp, where the T is in temp here. I can maybe print that out. I'm going to say index is, and then print out the index. So it is finding the temp at character 151. So if I go over 151 characters, it's finding that's this. That's this, the start of the word temp here. So your job is to use your substring and use this index value and try to print off this, the actual temperature out there and what the actual temperature is. So see if you can figure out how to code this so that you can just print off the temperature here. You can use the index of to grab one or more indexes. And then you can use substring to do, so maybe I can go from index or some value here, index or something. I don't know, you have to figure out how to do this. So I'll let you play with that and we'll talk about possible solutions in maybe 10 minutes. So. Okay, let's see how we're doing here in our 10 minutes. So what this suggests is that we grab and we get the string temperature from our weather data substring once we have our index. So I get my index. I'm gonna keep printing off my index for now, and then I'm gonna grab this substring temperature. So I'm going to declare that as a variable. Maybe I'll say string temperature. So again, and my weather data, my variable, my JSON data is called weather JSON, and I'm going to go substring there, and I'm going to go again the index. If I just do the index, I'm just going to do the index to start, and index plus 10. So, and then I'm going to print off that string temperature here. So all I've done is put this in basically a little variable string temperature here. I'm going to make it, I think, a little shorter. String temp. There. I think that's easier for me to read. Okay, so I'm going to try this out. I'm still printing out the whole weather data for now so I can see. And then it's printing out the index is 151 and it prints out this temp colon 53.8. So again, it finds it in this string and returns. So this is index. So I really just want the number. So I'm going to say, well, how far do I need to go? So I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to try to add 6 to the index plus 6, and see how that looks. So now it's printing off the actual temperature 53.7 there for that, and it's going to index plus 10. It should be 7, 8, it looks like. If I look at this, it looks like it should be, oops, where's my temperature? I lost it. So I'm going to 10. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's going there. I'm going to maybe go to 11 so I can get that 8 value here. And run that. And run that, see if that works. So now I'm getting the full thing. Now I have that. So again, I'm kind of trying to extract this temperature out of there. how'd it go for you? Did you do something similar? This isn't a great way of doing it. It is one way of doing it. Yeah.
I found, thing after, temperature is feels like, so I got the index of temp and the index of feels like.
Yeah. So one of the problems with the way I'm doing it is that it works fine as long as this is 5 digit, 5 characters, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But what if it's 100 and it's not going to be 100 degrees in Duluth, but someone else might use it. What if it's 104 degrees out? This would not necessarily work. Or what if it's only 3 degrees out? That's much more common in Duluth. This wouldn't work so well. So again, we could look at getting not only the first index, but some other index. So you said you looked for temp, and then you also looked at feels like. And so you knew where this index was and where this one is, and then you could count. And these should be fixed values. These strings should be pretty fixed there. They won't change, so you can do that. Another thing you can do, it's interesting. So sometimes, so if I type in weather JSON dot index of, I can see the different options. So I can say index of a string returns the index within a string of the first occurrence of the specified string. Okay, that's fine. But there's also there's this index of where I specify a string, and a from index returns the index within a string of the first occurrence of the specified substring starting at a specified index. So you can say, don't start at the beginning, start at this point and search from there on. There. You can also specify a beginning and an end index here. So there are different ways you can call index of to do various things. But for now, I'm just going to keep it simple like this. It's not perfect, but it works today. There. I kind of skipped over. Did you notice I skipped over a whole section of the instructions? Sydney was complaining. Yeah, you were worried about that, weren't you? Okay, so it said right up at the top, add a method of your program called parse temperature. It should take a string parameter and return a string value. It should look something like this. We didn't do that. So what we want to do is down here, it's add your own methods here. I'm going to move some of this code into my own method down here. So I'm going to declare a public static void, and not void. It's going to return a string, and I'm going to give it some name, parse temperature. And it's going to take one parameter. So one parameter inside the parentheses, it's going to take a string, and it's going to be my weather data. So that's right. And then I'm going to take my code, and some of my code I'm going to move down here. So like this index, I'm going to move that down here. I'm going to take it out of here and put it down here. Now, int index. Now in here, I call this weather data. Now, so I'm going to change this to weather data. So that'll work. So this will find the index. Then I'm gonna grab this one that's gonna find the string temp. I'm also gonna take that out and put that. So once I have the index, I can calculate the string temp here. And again, I want to make sure I should be using whatever my argument, I pass in some weather string variable here. I want within the confines of my method, I want to be using that. I'm going to use my argument, not whatever I have up in the main program. So within my method, I'm going to use my argument weather data here. So I'm going to say weather data substring here, and I get the string temperature. Now I could just print off the string temperature here, but I'm going to return it instead and print it off in the main program. So I'm going to say return string temp here. So it'll find that temperature and return it to the wherever I call it. So now up here, I can just print out this. So I could store it in a variable, or I could just call parse temperature up here. I could just say parse, print out parse temperature, and pass in the weather JSON data. And now if I run this, it should, again, I'm still printing off the whole weather JSON data. I'm going to actually hide that and just print off the temperature. So now it should just print off the temperature here because that. And maybe I want to say, add some more to it. Maybe I'm going to want to say the temperature is, and then call parse temperature. Get it to print out that. And maybe I could actually, it's in Fahrenheit and it's probably not clear. I mean, some of us are not used to using Fahrenheit for temperatures. So you could also add, Fahrenheit or something like that. And Caleb, I mentioned to you, I've tried to print off the little degree symbol, and I don't know if I don't think the font. Yeah, the font, there's a certain font that's used by this console down here that doesn't have a lot of the symbols in it, unfortunately. So that's a bummer. Because usually you could do that. Yeah. So we've got this working hopefully for parse temperature. Your job, you have a couple of things you can do. One is, again, you can clean this up so that maybe you are searching for maybe a starting index and an ending index or something like that, or some better ways you could look at that. And also you want to get some other weather data out of this. So here's our weather data. We have the latitude and longitude. We have the main description, the main, which is just a one-word description. We have a description, which is if it's clear or not there. We have the pressure, the humidity, the wind speed is here. So you could pick one of these things and make a new method like called string parse humidity or something like that and see if you can change it to grab that. So see if you can get this to work, get the temperature to work, and then once you have the temperature work, see if you can get something else to work. So if you work on this a little bit more, see if you can add another way of doing this. Get another weather data thing out of here, and then we'll look at some options. Okay, I'm gonna tell you what you have to do today, and then stuff like that. So first, a quick warning. If you're actually writing real code for parsing JSON data, you should never do it by hand like this. This is a good I mean, it's good exercise at this point to learn how to do this, but in real world stuff, you want to make sure you're not making any errors, and JSON data can get rather complicated. Same with XML data. So there are whole libraries for doing this. You would bring in a library for this sort of stuff that would handle some of complexity and error checking and stuff like that. So, for example, there's a library called JSON. Let's see. I wanted to see if there was a newer one, but JSON is what I've used before. It's by Google, and it's a library for parsing JSON stuff. It's Google's one. And again, so if you have this data here, you would create a first you'd have to import this, and then you would parse the string. You take your weather data and parse it as a JSON object here. And once you have the JSON object, you can say JSON.getObjectMain, and then you can say getObjectTemp, and then get it as a double to return it instead of a string, but as an actual number, stuff like that. So, and you can actually chain these all together. So you could say get object, because one of the problems there is that there's this main, and inside main is temp. So you've got to say go inside main. Inside main, you'll find temp, and inside temp, you'll find this value. And so this code would actually go inside main, find that. So again, and you could actually do this all in one code here. Let me just you would do this, and then I think we would just do it. I would just do it like this. And then we would actually get the double temperature and convert it to a double all with this. You'd say, go into my JSON, get the main, inside main, get the temp, and then get that as a double. And you just access it this way. So again, there are ways of doing this and again, we don't want you to do it that way. But again, sometimes people forget when they get out in the real world, like, oh, I remember in Java class, I did this with strings. Yes, we did it as strings, but that's not how real programmers do it. You're just learning, so do that. Okay, so once you get this done, you want to post it to the discussion area, right? So weather discussion area, post your code and your output. Output should include the temperature and additional piece of weather data. And part 4 is optional for the weather station. So that's actually optional if you want to do that here. And then do another post again later on about this. Now the assignment builds on this stuff here. So see if you can, and look at this assignment is to make, so you'll probably have 2 methods right here. At some point, you might have a parse string and a parse humidity. I don't know what else you did. And you're searching for different things, different strings here, and you're working on that. You can see if you can make for the assignment, a generic parse method here that will parse some string data given the weather data and the tag. So again, if you're searching for temp or you're searching for humid or whatever the tag is, can you make a generic routine for this? And again, you want to find the starting index and the ending index. So again, I want to find the starting index and some sort of ending index. Now, there's a couple ways of doing that. One way, again, Caleb, you suggested you could just look at the index after that. And I would allow you to specify both, if you want to specify the tag and then the next tag, you could do that. But I think you can do the substring of or index of and specify, search for something, and then start at the index you found and look for it that way. So see, so that'll be the assignment, is to try to manage this stuff. So, okay. Friday, we'll keep working on methods and arguments and stuff. I will warn you that often methods and arguments and returning things are kind of confusing when you first get in them. So so we'll continue to do a review on and go through some of the practice problems on Friday. Questions on what's due or anything like that? Okay, so feel free to stick around and finish that up. Otherwise, we'll see you on Friday.